Cesar, the crowd pleaser. If you need to pick me up, ladies, we gon' change your demeanor. Caesar, the crowd pleaser. We gon' do a little dance, we gon' make the naysayers believe us. Hey girl, had a long day, you tired from work. Throw me some dollars and I remove my shirt. You can touch me too, these are the perks. Free yourself, lose your mind and go berserk, and go berserk, and go berserk, and go berserk.
Make way for the bad guy.
What is up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Crowd Pleaser, the podcast that brings you the inside scoop on what it takes to be a male entertainer in today's age. I'm your host, Cesar the Crowd Pleaser, and this is going to be episode 40, where we are going to be discussing choreography, the creation of various routines that guys perform on stage for the ladies to enjoy. I have two special guests on the show here with me today. But first, let me go ahead and mention my patrons. Thank you. Thank you to all my patrons out there that donate or pledge at patreon.com/crowdpleaser. They help me fund this show along with the various projects like cosplay and my fire dancing and my aerials stuff. So thank you so much for all that support. You guys can definitely check it out. You get all kinds of neat perks like behind the scenes footage of creation of this show, as well as other routines I'm making, and special exclusive Patreon only photo shoots and stuff like that. Definitely check it out. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month, and yeah, you can cancel anytime. So appreciate it. Let me give a shout out to So Boss and Sarah Brand. They both left reviews on the iTunes, and it is greatly appreciated. Any positive or negative feedback, I don't mind. Creative criticism is always welcome. So thank you, too, for taking the time to leave a message. I really appreciate it. And I encourage everyone that does listen to the show, try to just pass on the show to one other person. Introduce it to them, see what they think, and who knows, if they could share it to one other person, that's how we get around the world and kind of expand on the industry that people know so little about. Next, La Bear Dallas. This is my home office where I operate 5 nights a week, Wednesday to Sunday. If you're in the Dallas area, definitely check it out. Number one ladies destination. We have it all for bachelorette parties, birthday parties, divorce parties, promotions, schools out, graduation, you name it. Come out here, have a great time. All right, real quick, want to introduce my co-hosts. First on the show, he's been dancing for 3 years and has choreographed over 54 routines. This dude is absolutely phenomenal on the dance floor. He is almost borderline criticized to an extent that his shows are like way beyond anything that should be in a strip club. So that's one of the reasons why I had him on the show. I want to welcome on the show Juice the Champ. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing swell, man. Thanks for taking the time to be on the show. I know we tried to connect when you were in Florida earlier, and it just didn't quite happen because of technology. So thanks for having me or coming on the show for round 2.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Next, I've got a good buddy of mine. He's been dancing for 5 years. He was actually on the top 3 on my reality show where he was making a different routine on the fly week after week to compete. And like I said, he managed to make it to the top 3. Which is no easy feat. Competition was very, very competitive, for lack of a better term. I want to welcome on the show Mandingo Jones. How you doing, brother?
What up, my brother? I'm doing just fine. Out here looking at the fish tank, and here to discuss some important choreography topics.
Well, I guess you just also finished recording a documentary and you warmed up. So, yeah. Got the tone and pitch and like cadence down packed already. You guys want to talk about Juice? Talk about your club for a little bit.
Well, basically, our club was formerly known as Hard Bodies, now known as the Gallery. We are there 3 nights a week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, from 7 to 10. Depending on Saturday nights, we might extend the hours a little bit, but it's just a new change with the hours and everything. Still get a good show. Basically, almost the same thing. Just kind of, got a limited time. After that, it's a nightclub, but still a male show, male review show, but a little bit earlier. So, I'm just getting back into town. So it's my first week. I did it last week, so it's definitely a difference. Everything gets started a lot quicker. Everything moves a lot quicker. So it's like
So
I don't know, very fast paced.
little less quantity, but still the great quality of show that you guys put
Exactly.
forth over and over again. So
Exactly.
right on. Sweet, man. So yeah, definitely if y'all are in the San Antonio area, definitely check it out. That's the gallery. I got plenty of friends out there. I've performed there myself a handful of times. They're really good dudes on there. Show is phenomenal. Definitely check it out. Say what's up to the guys and show them a little appreciation. All right, gentlemen. So a lot of people that have never been to a male strip club just kind of chalk it up to the way female clubs work and where they come out, we get undressed, and that's the end of it. But in fact, it's entirely different. We put on a show, we put on intense choreography and theatrics and things like that to provide women with the kind of entertainment that they're looking for. And even the people that do go and see the shows don't understand what all goes into it and the work and the intensity and just the dynamics and formula that we use to create these routines and choreography. So first, let's go ahead and get to the core root of why we do it, why we create choreographed shows. Juice, what's your take on this?
Well, for me, from my understanding of everything, it's enticing to the women for them to see a choreographed routine versus you can go out there and just take your clothes off, but it's like it's a visual, not only visual, but it's also in some ways with women it's intimate. So it's getting into their minds and it's actually a fantasy, and that's a part of like what our job entitles.
Yeah, you're
it's a
engaging the
fantasy.
women.
Exactly. So you know, it's taking them from just being in a strip club into like, say, if someone could do like a bed routine or like a shower routine or something, but it could still have a group choreographed thing or something, involving, fire or something like that. But it has that fantasy, and it's, for them, it's sexy. And also for us, we do choreographed routines because a lot of us like to dance. So it's a lot easier for us that like dancing to want to be able to do choreographed routines. That's what I think about it.
Yeah, you're kind of able to express yourself while engaging the crowd and showing potentially strangers what you're about and making that connection before you two even say a word to each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sweet, man. Thanks. Mandingo, why do you think we create such elaborate shows and whatnot?
Real quick, just to touch on what he just said about us, like a lot of us that, especially at the gallery now, formerly Hard Bodies, especially there, a lot of us do fall into the culture of wanting to dance. And well, at a certain point, especially dancing over a year, you have a signature. There's a certain signature. There's a certain style of show that people sometimes expect to see. And it's really hard to have a signature without creating something that's going to back it up and make it your signature. Choreography being one of the bigger parts, or the first name in the signature, while the last name could be made of many components, such as props or lighting or the kind of music you use. Choreography is very important for identifying with not only yourself as a dancer, but having women identify what kind of dancer you are. So while also providing them with a fantasy, you're making it easier for them to decide whether you're the kind of guy that they would gravitate towards or whether you're not. I personally believe that choreography is a large part of that. And as he said, a lot of us there just really like to create, or those who don't know how to create as well will ask. So they also recognize that it's an important part of the signature and self-identification as somebody in this business.
Okay, so you mentioned the analogy of it being like a signature, right? Kind of being your statement on who you want to be that night. So part of that signature, I feel, is selecting a theme for your choreography, your routine, and whatnot. So to continue on with you, like what's your thought process? Like, how do you pick your themes? How do you select them? How do you go through a vetting process to figure out whether you think it's going to be successful on stage or not?
Well, sometimes, actually, if I can admit this here, sometimes my thinking of themes is very flawed because I have you ever heard of that expression? You can help other people more than you can help yourself. Usually, like you can advise people very well,
Oh yeah,
but,
yeah.
but when you're in the middle of a certain situation, it's really hard for you to advise yourself and take your own advice, and then
Mm-hmm.
usually take somebody on the outside. Like Juice actually has a habit of being the one to be like, well, the girls kind of have to relate to it more. Once he figured that out, me, even though dancing longer than him, every once in a while, he's that angel on the shoulder that's like, look, I know you want to do this, but have you considered doing it this way? Because the girls need to, relate. There has to be some sort of relation. Now, there'll be a few girls that might get it or just like me, so they like what I'm doing because I'm their favorite no matter what. But they're reaching a whole crowd of women who you might not be their favorite or even their type of guy, and you want to potentially be able to pull them in. You have to have a certain type of relatability in the things that you create. So now I try to put myself in a woman's shoes or in an audience member's shoes and try to see exactly how what I'm doing will affect them. Will it scare them? People are already scared of me. I don't need that. You know what I'm saying? Will it entice them? Do I need to do more or do I need to do less? Like, some people, they can just keep doing more and more and more and more and more and do everything in the books and it'll work out for them. While other people, they have to have a specific formula and they have to stop exactly at this point or else it's too much for them. So that's some of the that's partial thought process when it comes to me making my choreography. And also, I have to enjoy it. Regardless of whether the women are enjoying it or not, if I don't enjoy what I'm doing, it's not going to be projected properly. So it has a quarter fun for me and probably 50%. Man, I can't even, these numbers aren't coming to me correctly right now, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get you. So let me kind of dive a little deeper with your theme. So like one of the first routines I've seen you do was your witch doctor routine, your voodoo,
Mm-hmm.
and then later on I've seen you do a circus a ringleader, right? Is that what it's called? Master of Ceremonies for
Ringleader.
yeah, ringleader. Then I've seen you do Desperado, which is your cowboy routine, and I've even seen you do a Pirates of the Caribbean. So these things vary very much from themselves. So how did you kind of? Is that just trying to reinvent the wheel or go off a beaten path, or did you think it was something that was going to be a hit? Like, I mean, Pirates of the Caribbean, that one was kind of fine because the movies were probably coming out the era, but the circus one and voodoo, things like that, that's very much not mainstream at the time. So how did
Right.
you jump from one theme to the next?
Originally, the voodoo thing was cultural, um, and I also felt like my look just really fit the theme. Now that you list all of these off, there is something very common about these. All of these different universes, but in each universe that these all exist, I'm some sort of a, I guess, sort of an outcast. As a pirate, you're an outcast. As a circus ringleader, you're like, you know what I'm saying? You run an entire circus, but it's very out of the ordinary. As a voodoo witch doctor, it's very taboo. It's very forbidden. It's very dark. You know what I'm saying? It could just be tied to the fact that occasionally I just feel like an outcast, and I have before. Even when I tie in and I fit into groups, it's just maybe I am for the outcast. So I try to project that in my acts. And I honestly didn't even realize it until you just named them off. And naming them all side by side kind of brings me to the realization that subconsciously or consciously, I try to be out of the ordinary somehow. Not saying that other shows would be ordinary. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying it more. I'm just more so along the
Abstract.
lines of being. What'd you say, bro?
I said it's abstract.
Yeah, I guess you could
Just
say
say
it's
abstract.
abstract.
Yeah.
I didn't. That's not the word that came to my head, but I guess you could say that. I'm
Yeah.
just really like I feel like I'm really out there in many ways. You know what I'm saying? Like just I've always been a different character, even just when I was in school, even when I played football, when I'd be in a science lab, whenever I used to go to church, like, I was just always the different one no matter where I went. There was no crowd where it was just like, I'm fitting into this crowd. I was an outcast in every crowd. I was accepted, but I was still not, I never felt like, you know what I'm saying?
No, but it actually is it's really good point too, because you're by expressing who you are and who you want to be, then you also give the option for your crowd to relate with you. You know, when they catch that, ooh, this is not your cookie cutter human being that I'm looking at right now. There's that sense of appeal there and that mystery where they want to dig deeper and find out who you are and stuff. And it's great that you can portray that on stage in so many different fashions. So I totally get what you're saying. Uh, Juice, you have really kind of taking a hold on the straight up performance and entertainment aspect. I've seen you definitely get crazy with your themes and stuff on routines, but you very much like I could easily see your choreography and your routines being done on the stage of a major singer or a major band or anything like that for just sheer, entertainment value. A little potentially less theatrics, but more showmanship
Yeah.
nonetheless. Take us a little bit down your kind of thought process behind selecting your themes and whatnot.
What'd you say?
Take us down your thought process on selecting themes.
Oh, okay. Well, selecting themes, uh, sometimes it can be, I don't know, something I see on TV. It could be something that I think is just cool. Like, for example, I ended up making it differently, but I turned around because there was always smudges on the mirrors, and I was trying not to. I was trying not to. I was trying not to get like lean my body up against the mirror because they said something about people are leaving smudges on the mirrors, and it was probably about had to be maybe like my first year, maybe like October, November of working at the club, and I was trying to think about themes for my birthday. It had to be maybe October. So there was these smudges on the mirror and there was like these scratches, I think. And so I turned around and I looked in the mirror and my eyes fit in perfectly with these scratches and it looked like I was wearing a mask, like a masquerade kind of mask. And so I was wondering, like, I didn't know any I haven't done a birthday party or done a theme like that in any way, like ever. So I did that. I was like, oh, that'd be kind of cool to have a masquerade party and like have the act kind of relate to the theme of the party. So um, I thought it was the coolest thing. Like it had never been done before, but it's been done a million times over. But I thought, why not do a masquerade party? Um, Also, too, I mean, sometimes well, especially when I first started, I'll get really, really bad anxiety sometimes, like going downstairs and then seeing like when it's packed, I'd kind of freak out a little bit. Almost like I wish I could just like run past everybody and no one saying it or see me. But I know that sounds stupid, but I mean, I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Everybody wear a mask. If they got big masks, you don't know who the person is or whatever. But I mean, I just thought that was kind of cool. So then I picked that as the theme, and the when I started working on the act, it changed a million times. I think I made 12 versions of it just because I didn't think it was. I wanted something that's high energy, um, kind of to the point. With that one in particular, and we were originally supposed to wear masks, but I wanted everybody to be able to see because I was using new lighting, and I was wanting to use laser lighting. And at first, when we first started using them, they were very difficult to work with. I had to practice with it a lot. because they were. I don't know if you remember Dingo, but I remember they were kind of painful for some of us to watch. Like looking at the lasers moving like that was like, what the hell? So,
Wait, what? You
the
talking
laser
about like
that when my
what?
first birthday act.
With the bed
Yeah,
with the yeah. I remember that. Those are the blue ones.
yeah, the blue ones. When I first got them, they were. For me, I know for sure it was like I could not look at them at all.
Oh
I remember,
no.
yeah, they were intense. But I mean, I think about the way I make my acts is just it could just be random. Like if I see something, um, it could be an army commercial, and I'm like, yo, it'd be kind of cool to make a military act. Or I could be watching a movie and it's like uh, someone sloppy drunk. I don't know, a movie scene or something like that. And I couldn't think of anything really. Anything that can like trigger my creativity. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Could be a picture. It could be. I don't know. It's just weird. I don't know.
You just
Different
kind of
things like
need that
that.
corner piece, your first brick to lay down, and then your imagination kind of carries on the rest to build the rest of the house.
Yeah. Now, as far as the music, selecting the music, that's different. Um,
My
that's just like
God.
I have to have the feeling for it. I guess I have to have like I get excited if I hear the music or certain transitions. People don't even pay attention to that,
Nope.
but they don't even pay attention. Some of them, a very small selection of women and people do pay attention to the transitions, but the transitions, that's what sometimes it gets me excited. I'm like, okay, if I'm getting excited like this because it's keeping the momentum going, they may not know that that's why they're getting excited about the songs or whatever, but it's it's also there subconsciously too. When a
See,
song,
that's sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, but
no,
this is that's what's so messed up. We talk about it all the time.
I
And
know,
they never know.
they don't realize it, but sometimes they do. So,
You know what though? Like that's a compliment in of itself, if you will. Like the fact that you're able to inspire and trigger emotions and reactions in people without them knowing why, it's just a testament to like the artistry that you put together. You know what I mean? It's kind of like if you look at any kind of performer or athlete, the biggest compliment that you hear people say is that they make it look so easy. And to anyone that's in that specific
oh yeah,
discipline can tell you like, hey, that is nowhere near as easy as it looks. But that is kind of like a hallmark of
no,
when you've
man,
achieved a certain level of proficiency in something when you make it look
yeah,
effortless. So the fact that you're
yes.
able to do it, yeah, you might not get the straight up like point blank blatant appreciation for what you're
Oh
doing.
no, 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 not even looking for it. It's just the fact that they don't know it. Like they don't know like the like it's not like a it's not like you're not told like as us dancers, and also too we make our own, we mix our songs together, like we mix the music, so it's not like you're told like, hey, cut the song off at this time, okay, a minute of each song so you can make a 3 minute act. It's not like that. It's really based off of like, especially for me for sure, it's like the feeling. And then I feel like sometimes I'm like, okay, yeah, I can keep the song going for this long, and after that I think about it, let me think, okay, if I'm sitting down in the audience and I'm hearing this song and they're doing choreography, yeah, it's good choreography, but you have to like raise the level of energy and then drop it down and kind of pick it back up. So sometimes there's certain songs I might use a song for 30 seconds and boom, I switch to the next song where it's just like it hits them like so much, kind of like kind of jerks your emotion and feeling around like, oh my God, this is nostalgic. Something remind me of a couple years ago, or oh, this song's hot right now. Like
She likes it my way.
yeah, like that. Like whenever I did that, it was just that was so last minute too.
It was
But
perfect.
I just was like, it was this act I did for May strip off last year. Um, I had a different way of doing it before. I just wanted to completely do it over because I didn't feel like I had done it justice in the beginning because I was still new and I didn't really have or know how to make a budget out for something like that. I just knew that I wanted to make an Usher type routine, um, where it's more like party, like very, very fun party theme.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't, I figured. I mean, I had it. I was on to something, but then I redid the show, and I never did it in a strip off. So I changed out the costumes, uh, added a backdrop, added a bunch of lighting, and um, we did like this glow stick thing in the beginning. It was like a almost kind of like you're setting a theme for like a rave. And to add on top of that, I wanted to like kind of set the tone where it's like you think it's gonna be something slow or like, but then bam, there's a rave out of nowhere. So that's I don't know. I love transitions.
So speaking of that, you
Mhm.
obviously have a talent for entertainment, for dancing in general. You're a phenomenal dancer.
Thank you.
Well, when you are creating these routines, obviously, especially for your birthday or for a strip off, you want to go all out. You just want to. You want to put the best show that you can.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of times, I would say at least 80% of the time, we are not on stage alone, and
Yes.
you have to not only I guess there's two levels. One, there is a point where you're getting negative returns on your level of difficulty. You can have some of the most intricate choreography where any dancer might be like, wow, that was awesome, but it might very easily go over the heads of your audience. So that is
Oh
something you
yeah.
have to play on. The other part to
Oh
that
god,
is
yeah.
also, like I was saying, is the fact that you have multiple people on stage with you for these routines. And let's be honest, like we don't always get dancers. And you might not
Right.
have access to 4 or 5 cold blooded, b-boys.
Exactly.
So how do you balance and how do you select the level of difficulty or intricacy that you want to have within your choreography and your routines?
I guess what I most times what I do is I choreograph something. Um, I record it or try to remember it enough, and I can do it again throughout the day or whatever time that I'm working on it, and I remember the moves, and then I go back and I actually reteach myself the choreography that I just made, and I make it to where I can do it to counts. And if I can't do it to counts, I do it off of the sound of the beat or the musicality of it, and I just go off of that. And that way, if I can teach myself and do it the same way over and over and over and over again, and then I know that okay, if I can do it that way, I can try to teach the guys that way too. Now, if I'm teaching the guys and I'm running into any like difficult spots, I just alter it to where you know, okay, this will be a little bit easier, gets the same or similar effect, the choreography, the move, but we can make it just tweak it just to make it a little bit easier. I'd rather it look um,
Clean.
clean. I'd rather it look clean and you know good and clean versus intricate and sloppy. So I prefer that over anything. But I still like the high energy type move.
So yeah, you're all about the trial by fire, more or less. It's like, all right, here's why I choreographed. You guys either step up to the plate or we'll make
Well,
do.
that's
We'll put you in the back.
another thing.
Ah!
Also getting the guys to do it is not really necessarily a biggest problem because we all work with each other. We all a lot. I mean, we're fortunate enough to help each other. It's also like a give and take type thing. Like, hey, can you help me with my act? I'm like, well, hey, you got to help me with mine. Like, you want me to
That's
help
the
you make
thing.
something? Yeah,
No matter how ridiculous he makes his choreography, you know that if you do it, you have somebody that will help you with yours, no matter how ridiculous yours is.
exactly, exactly. So I mean, that's always like it's always a give and take. And also too, I feel like when you do my core, it's fun. Like it's actually a bonding experience, in my opinion. Whenever we work on something that's difficult, like we worked on Dingo's strip off act. We were in the gym for about 3 hours, just me and him. And this is after we've already rehearsed with everybody else, and it was just me and him working on his act. And it was like I don't know, it's like you bond, with each other. And so whenever it's time to work on the next thing, it's like you always look at it as like a bonding type thing, like you're bonding with each other, your brothers.
It's like
So
football practice.
exactly,
I like how
exactly.
Mandingo mentioned, how ridiculous your routine is because like you can because you'll go, it'll be stage time, you'll go up and perform it, and you have your normal like charismatic stage face, you know what I'm saying, and there might be like one or two people like Mandingo that kind of have sort of the same thing going on, and then there's one person that might be absolutely killing the choreography, but their face is just either like stoic concentration or like borderline panic, like they know they can't miss a beat, they're like skimming on count, they're like, I'm like half a second behind, but I'm still on it. If I mess up one bit, it's just gonna go downhill from here.
That sounds like Christian. Christian's like, I have to get this perfect. It has to be perfect.
Yes, yeah.
And it's like, bro, you practice it to the best perfection that you can, and then when it comes time for stage, it's where you don't have to think. You just go.
I mean, it's great too, because like when you finish, like you hit your, strike a pose hit at the end or something, like, you might be a little sweaty, but you got that look like, bam, what's up? And then you can catch like one or two people sit in the back, like breathing heavy, like holding in a sigh. They're just like,
I don't understand. I got crazy endurance for stuff like that. I don't know.
It's freaking epic, man. It's great. Mandingo, bro, tell us about how you select how difficult or intricate or easy you want your choreography to be. Like, do theatrics play a role in it? What's up, man?
Theatrics play a huge role in mine. Huge, absolutely huge. I think sometimes I value theatrics too much. If I can, sometimes, and it can be somewhat of a it could be somewhat of a not crutch.
A comfort?
Somewhat of a... It could be self-destructive. Because you're... Like I was saying earlier, like, this is how I see it. Creating an act, a quarter of it's music, a quarter of it is choreography, a quarter of it is like setting the scene, lights, props, and another quarter is basically stage presence and execution. So theatrics kind of fall across everything there for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Theatrics fall into the choreography, theatrics fall into your execution, theatrics fall into the way you set your stage. So maybe I shouldn't say that I value
Dingo.
Because I'm a movie, I'm a dancer, I'm an interactive show. This isn't a sit back and watch the show the whole time and then continue watching me later as if, because the theatrics can follow me to the tip taking sometimes, or most of the time. So, but I had to learn how to cut it off or tone it or dial it back a bit to be able to be more efficient at what I'm doing. It can be self-destructive in the fact that women sometimes, not to sound, I'm not trying to sound like conceited or anything, but women can be so mesmerized by a show that you're creating. Keep in mind, some of them are drunk too. I'm not saying, some of them are so mesmerized by everything that's going on that they just want to continue to see what else is going on without actually interacting with you, which is the entire point. You know what I'm saying? So theatrics play a big role in, like, for example, every act that you named earlier, they're all really heavily theatrical. Pirates of the Caribbean.
Even Egyptian.
Yeah, the Egyptian one too. Pirates of the Caribbean, Egyptian, the ringleader one. I have a lion tamer chasing a lion through the crowd. Like, it's very, very much theatrical. So I guess maybe sometimes I don't want to say I try to use it as I don't want to say I use it as a crutch, but I don't attempt to. So I know it's a big part of what I do, but it can hurt me sometimes if I'm not careful. As far as for choreography in and of itself and difficulty, oh man, I can say I want it to be difficult, but effectiveness is what I really aim for. So I believe we've had this conversation before. It was very brief, actually. It was at a wedding. We were talking about choreography, and you were like, sometimes it can be too much. And if I'm not careful, I won't know when to stop. The good thing about Juice, he can give you a whole bunch and he can just cut it off when he's like, all right, that's enough. Me, sometimes I don't know when to stop and I try to keep going. And then he's like, you sure you want to keep going? You sure you don't want to stop there? I mean, that's just fine. So, yeah, you do it all the time.
Laughing. Yeah, I know.
So, so
He kind of politely taps you on the shoulder, like halfway through. Okay, guys, then we're gonna do them. We're tick tick. Yeah, okay, that was the last 8 count.
Well,
like he's more so like you remember this show is for this and you don't want this to happen because you're doing too much of this. So just go from here, right here. I think that's usually how he says it. He's like, I think it's fine the way it is, or he's like, or he's like, I think you should just cut it there. I would cut it there, and he's like, okay, I guess I should cut it there because he's pretty much saying that that's the best place, and you trust his advice because you've seen what he does. You know what I'm saying? You trust his being around him actually increased the quality of all of our shows because no matter how much he says he won't, he still steps in and is like, you sure you want to do that? He's not telling you what to do. He's just like, you probably want to dial back right here because of this. I like being in the middle of difficulty with choreography. Some acts call for it. In my opinion, my last act, I don't think you got to see it. The one that where I was talking to you about the flow arts.
No, yeah, not yet.
Yeah, you haven't seen that one yet. There's a certain part of that choreography that's extremely difficult, but if I have really difficult choreography, it's usually only one section. It's usually theatrics, difficult choreography, slower, more sensual choreography. So I believe that flashy, quick choreography is nice, but only in one
Small bursts.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
but it was also very angled too, like it was very big movements, but it was so I don't know. It was I loved it though. That difficult part was it was
yeah,
exciting.
and that is something you have to take into consideration too, is the fact that you're performing on a stage away from the crowd, so you can only put so much minuscule intricacy in there because a lot of it you'll miss it. And like at least you guys, your stage is elevated enough to where even if people were at your stage, you could see everything. Versus at LeBaire, our stage is about stomach height. And we encourage women to surround the stage. So if you do stuff too low to the ground or too much just strictly footwork, a lot of it's going to get lost. And so that's something you have to take into consideration.
True.
So we've been talking about level of difficulty and stuff like this now, and the fact that it's group routine. We have guys come in and help us. Typically, how many guys do you end up teaching on your routines? Like for me, I normally like to have 2 backups. So if a routine requires 3 people, me and 2 other guys, I'll typically try to teach about 4 guys. Occasionally we can have routines that have 5 guys, but our stage is sometimes a little smaller than what is needed to to effectively use 5 guys on stage. Unless you have them kind of squeezed together a little more. But also sometimes, man, like let's be practical. We're there to make money. We're there to entertain and make women happy. And come Saturday night when there's 400 women in the club and guys have to do dances and guys are talking to guests and things like that, it's sometimes a lot tougher of a task to get 4 guys together to help you prime time. Exactly. And so tell us a little bit, Juice, about how many guys you normally teach your routines. How do you figure out whether you're going to use 1, 2, 3, 5 guys on stage and stuff like that?
Normally, for a while, I would teach like 7 guys, 6 or 7 guys. I would teach my routine. It didn't matter. People would always be like, "Oh, your stuff is too hard." I'm like, no, really. If you just literally just take a little bit of time and actually practice it, it's actually fun. So it gets to a point where the guys will get like excited about, let's go finish practicing it. So that was always. I just got lucky. I got lucky being able to have that. But typically, I try to teach at least like maybe 5 or 6 guys normally, just because I want to be able to do a 3-man and I don't want to have to use the same guys every single time. It's better if more people know it. And if I want to do a 5-man, I can have like 2 people rotate out or, something like that. Sorry, what was the question again? I feel like I'm veering off topic.
No, you were on it that time.
Okay.
Dingo, how
Okay.
about you, brother?
Everybody learns. Everyone. If I see you walking by and you're not on the way to eat, you're not meeting somebody that's there to see you, or can you hear me? I moved the mic a little bit. Can you hear me still?
Yep,
Yeah.
still crystal, man.
Okay. All right, cool, awesome. Yeah, if somebody is in the vicinity and they are not doing something currently that they need to do, they're learning. It's that simple because, as you said, it's hard to get guys on stage to help you. And also, guys don't show up to work sometimes. So if it's a 3-man act, I'm teaching everybody. It might not be that exact day that they get taught, but if it comes to a point where I start to suspect that I'm going to need more people, I'm going to try to get as many people as possible in the next teaching of it, so that not only one, I can give the guys a break who do it all the time, because that is another thing we haven't touched on. That is one of the most frustrating parts of my club. That is one of the most frustrating parts of my club. Unfortunately, we do it to ourselves sometimes just because of the nature and difficulty of our acts, but there are times where we do need, you know what I'm saying, another guy who has been in an act 5 times already and has 3 VIPs left to do and is irritated, and it's not even your fault. You're just the next one to ask him after 5 to 6 people who he's already said yes to, because he's the only one that might know the act. He has to do it. And it's not his fault that he's the only one that knows it. It's the fault of those that are actually getting to go make money and not help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he's being punished for doing the right thing in this case. It is one of the most frustrating and irritating aspects of the industry, because there's always going to be those few people you can't say no to. Why? They help you, or they help everyone else, and it's not fair to not help them because they're in everyone else's act. And now it's like, hey, can you help me, please? I know you've been in a lot of acts, almost as many as me, but I haven't had a chance to. Yes, of course I'll help you. You've been helping everyone else. I know exactly how you feel. So that can be extremely frustrating. So the best way to avoid all that for anyone is for everyone to teach everyone their act. That way, if I'm missing 3 people because they went on a road show, or one is sick, the other one has another job and they got called in, or the other one decided not to come into work today because they got in a fight with management, I'm not going to have to worry because there's 5 or 6 other guys and they all know the act. You know what I'm saying? So typically for like competitions and shows, we try to do
Bigger.
I'm usually a 5-guy competition guy.
Yeah.
Typically. Sometimes I'll do 3, but if I'm doing 3, it means I couldn't pull off 5 for whatever reason. I want to do 5 at least, usually. Regular Saturdays, or you know what I'm saying, other days of the week, typically 3. If it calls for 5-man, like my ringleader typically calls for like 4, because I have a lion tamer, a lion, and I want at least 1 gymnast. So I decide that number by initially thinking of an idea and then thinking to myself, will this many guys give me the vision I want? No? Okay, I'll add 2 more. But no more than 5. I typically keep it at 5 because I don't know why. He's crazy. I don't know why he goes to 7. You have to find more people. You know what I'm saying?
He uses everyone in the club. He starts contracting bus boys and stuff like that.
The bartender's involved.
I thought about it.
And like, yeah, when you're dealing with 7 guys, you're dealing with 6 other egos. You're dealing with 6 other people who want to go home. You're dealing with, like, yes, they all need to learn it, but you know what I'm saying? There's a certain point where I'm okay with 5. Like, okay, I can make this vision with 5. If it's 6 or 7, they won't be there the whole time just for the theatrics. Like, that's typically how I do it. So when I go down to like 3 guys, it's usually because it's an act, a nice, pleasant act that we can just, and when I say pleasant, I don't mean like other acts are miserable. I mean like
just slogging through it like, man.
I mean there's like less stress when you do it. Less setup, less costumes to keep track of. It's just all those little things play a huge part. And one more guy or two more guys can make a huge difference in that. So the amount of guys I use varies, especially depending on if it's a competition or if it's a road show or how many women is in there or what kind of show I'm doing. Like, it's just, it all varies by people you teach, but
Let me
I do
let
my
me add
best
a
to try to teach everyone.
let me add a follow-up question to that. So when you start, obviously, when you have access to more guys on stage, you have the ability to do more because it just opens up that freedom. You have a lot more resources. How
Right.
often do you keep your choreography symmetrical through all the guys so everyone can be interchangeable? Because like you just discussed, you can't necessarily dictate unless it's a special event, like what guys you're going to have on any given night at any given time. Or do you just kind of throw that to the wind and add independence? Like, all right, you two guys are going to do this when these two guys do that and this and that. And so it's kind of one of those things where everyone has a gist of the choreography, but then there's specific moves where like, it's like, hey man, I only know this side, or like, yeah, I could do either or.
Oh,
Like, how does that come into play for you, Mandingo?
problem. So, sorry for Dingo. Go ahead.
I mean,
Nah, hey, you're
I
already on.
feel-
Go ahead, Juice. Go ahead, Juice. Give time. Give
have a
Dingo a
I
little
feeling.
bit
was
of
just
time
gonna
to
say,
mull
like,
it over.
I basically solved that problem and made it to where everyone, for the most part, is unison on certain things. The only difference is like if there's a slide, if I'm literally pushing my hands outwards one way, like say my left hand pushes out to the left, my right hand pushes out to the right, and that means move the same direction as my hands. That's basically, I try to keep it to where it's like most of it is unison. There's no like special turns or anything really like that. Basically, for the most part too, we also try our best to learn if there's anything different on the opposite side. We practice it that way too, so it can kind of have like a little idea of, so say like Dingo's ringleader, or like when I did my Michael Jackson Dangerous, uh the only thing we did differently was like one side, the left side would turn to the left and kind of do like this humping thing. The right side would do the same thing to the right side and do this humping thing, but they go opposite. I think learn both sides, so it's just to avoid like any problems like that. And even when there is like a problem, we already know, as the entertainer, the person that picked the act to do that night, that these people don't, okay, they may not know everything about those little details of turns or something like that in the act. So it's just decided right before you go on stage, hey, we're all just going to go ahead and turn to the left, or we're all just going to turn to the right on this part. So it just makes it easier. And when you have more guys and they learn it a certain way, it is easier because you get to do it with the same effect, the initial effect that you wanted it to be. But that's just, I try to avoid having any specified like anything unless it's a specific number of guys, the same guys, like say to me, Mandingo, Martine, and Christian and Suave or something like that. We're doing hand stuff with our hands or something like that. I would only leave it like that for those guys. For everybody else, I would teach them a unison, version of it where it has the same effect.
Yeah, it ends up like it's really frustrating because it looks really great when you can add some asymmetry to choreography and have different people doing different things at the same
Yeah.
time. But like you said, we're kind of victim to our circumstances. And I've done the same thing where at most, much like you said, I just like, okay, if something's going to be different, it's pretty much just going to be towards the outside or towards the inside. And that's it.
Yep.
Everything else, there's no left or right. There's no forward and back, things like that. It's always like exactly what you said. The only time I'll make guys do something different is you're gonna lean or step to the outside, and then you're gonna spin back or something like that. And
Yeah.
which is easy enough. You just know if you're on the right side, you do it to the right. If you're on the left side, you do it to the left, and that's the end of it. Because
Yep.
it'll happen. You think you've taught everything to everybody, and then one day you'll have two guys that only know the front of something or only know the back, and then you're like, oh crap. How about you, Mandingo? You got any input on that?
Real quick, before I answer that, I just recalled how like what the most asymmetrical choreography was I ever did, and the act wasn't even that hard. Now that I think about it, it was, you remember Damien Farrow, right?
Oh my God.
Yes.
That gentleman act was so asymmetrical.
It really was.
It was so like it was so it was slow, but it was still pretty sporadic.
It was so hard. The slide. I still have to think about it when I'm on stage. I do it with a smile on my face because I know I feel like I'm about to mess it up.
It's that box, even that box.
Yeah.
The boxes we do. So okay, I try to solve that with first of all, freestyle is a big part. It takes a lot of pressure off when it's like, for this long, do whatever you want. Whole lot of pressure is lifted off your shoulders there, and it's a way to be asymmetrical without that's what I'm saying. I take the restrictions away from being asymmetrical. Like there's no like, because even when you're assigning it, the choreography might be asymmetrical, but the timing won't be, or vice versa. But when you remove the symmetrics from the choreography and from the timing, how you do it and when you have to do it, there's no pressure. All you have to do is, okay, at this point, you do whatever you want and stop at this point. That's one way I kind of treat that remedy whenever I want to make it more, I'll give it a little bit of chaos, I guess you want to say.
I don't know. With me, like anytime, I'm not gonna lie, anytime I see a freestyle in somebody's routine, I always like ponder if like they just couldn't figure out a good choreography to that section of the song. So like, nah, here, you freestyle for like an 8 count and then we'll move on from there.
Well, it's usually on a part of the song where it would be very obvious someone would freestyle to it. You know what I'm saying? Like it won't be like 16 counts to freestyle. You know what I'm saying? It's like 4.
I remember,
like that real quick, like the act that we did when we battled. Each of those guys moved at different points, and one part was a freestyle for each. One guy had 4 counts to freestyle for each part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they weren't dancing necessarily at the same time, but when they jumped in, it went back. It was like boom. Like I think that's what's really impressive, in my opinion, about putting freestyles in a choreographed acts, because the transitions are everything. Your transition back to synchronization and synchronization and symmetry, that transition, the snap back to it is what is like, it's like the choreography is the tension and the climax is the snap back to synchronization. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it is really neat. It kind of you kind of play around with that chaos aspect a little bit.
Yeah, it's fun, but yeah, other than that, it's pretty much like y'all were saying earlier. Okay, if you're going to do this on this side, just remember on this side, y'all are doing the exact opposite. Like it makes sense. It's picked up a lot quicker. You guys are out. You guys are in. This next count, you guys are in, you guys are out. That's it. Or, you know what I'm saying? Mirroring each side.
All right. So it was clearly over the last, I don't know, half hour, whatever long it's been, we've discussed about all the things that go into our routines and our passion for it. We've cried, we've laughed, we've sweat blood and tears for these things. And sometimes it comes time where you have to move on. Like you only on a basic night, you'll do 2 routines a night. Occasionally you'll do 3. Sometimes you'll do 1 based on where you are in the roster and how the sets are going, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And we'll get new guys in there, and we want their show to be as good as ours, because at the end of the day, we're a team and people review the club, not the person. So
Yeah.
it comes because we put so much into our routines. Like, don't get me wrong, I thought I was gonna have an issue watching other people do my routines, and actually it's the complete opposite. I find it extremely rewarding when I get to see someone perform a routine I created, have fun doing it, and watch the crowd react to it from a different perspective, i.e. being a part of the crowd or seeing it from outside the circle instead of being in the middle of it during the routine. And but you also want people to appreciate what the work is. You don't want to give it to someone that may or may not be around in 3 months, and they may or may not care about it. So we sell routines, we give away routines, we do things like that. How are you guys, and either one of you can take this, as far as selling your routines to either other entertainers that really like the routine and always wanted it, or to new dancers that need a primetime show?
Man,
With I know for sure with my acts, it's very, very. They're all my babies, I guess. Like in one way or another, I was like really working on it so hard, and it's really difficult to see someone properly execute the act the way it should be done. I tried it out before, but I've also done it to where, I choreographed a few acts for like these strip offs, a few strip offs. Was it 2 years ago? I think. Trey did Good versus Evil. Me and him worked on that, and at Gold's Gym, we choreographed it. I think I had to help him cut some of it. I didn't do the music though originally, but we did cut out some music, added some sound effects and stuff. He got first place. I can't remember who got second, but third went to Ken. Majority of that entire act, I did almost the entire thing, probably about 80% of it, and he got third place, and fourth place went to Martine. That was such a great feeling to see that, like, okay, yeah, even though mine didn't place or anything, I really was not really that bothered by it. I was bothered more by the fact that my show didn't go the way I wanted it to go versus the placings. But it was nice to see that, that hard work that we all put into it, everyone benefited. Everybody did a great job. But for my own making of my own shows and selling them or giving them to somebody else, it's like what we were talking about earlier. There's that signature behind it, and they're so specifically made as like that is a juice act. Like I can't really quite put my finger on what it is, but there's different elements about it that it's just like it won't have the same effect if you don't do it this way. Like it's not gonna be the same. There's also even other people's acts that, hey, okay, I made this act for this person, and that person no longer works there. Okay, I want to teach this to this person, but if I teach it to them, are they going to do it the same way, and are they going to have the same effort? It's always hard, and I hate to have to hang it over anyone's head, but if I watch it and it's not having the same effect, then and you're not trying, or you're not wearing the costumes right, if you're not doing it the way you're supposed to, like the way if it's not broke, don't fix it. So leave it the way it is because it was working. Don't change out the costumes, don't change out, lighting. It's cool to be creative, but don't do it to where it's going to water down the entire act. Not necessarily water down choreography, but just take away the excitement or the emotion that you're supposed to be giving out or projecting. That's always the hard thing. So if I've seen that done, I'm going to say, hey, don't do the act anymore. I don't, it's not necessarily my act, but I mean, I choreographed it. I had, I was a part of the creative process. It's not fair. Don't do it anymore because you don't really care about it. They don't care about it, and they shouldn't do it.
That's what's up. Damn.
Yeah.
You aren't moving juice on this. Jeez. I could see him like walking on stage halfway through routine with the wireless mic. Stop the show! Stop the show! You call that an 8 count? I didn't teach you this.
I'm not like that. I'm not that bad. No, I'm really not like that.
He looks at the women, puts his hands up. Don't look at me. It's hideous.
No,
Man,
you know what I'm talking about, right? You know what I'm saying?
no,
Yeah,
I got it. No, I feel you. I feel you because, like, for example, when I had to give up the Top Gun routine, me being prior military, I have the military bearing, and when I was doing the routine, I taught the guys that same military bearing, the crisp, the sternness, and as soon as other people started to do it, I tried to give them as much instruction on it as I possibly could, but I don't know. I guess a 3-hour training session won't cover like 8 weeks of boot camp, but like, I just see it, and sometimes I'm like, God, that is a horrid salute.
No, it's just little things too. It could be little movements, or like you need to have a certain level of confidence, or not, at least like me myself. Sometimes I get really anxious before I go on stage, but I have to really get in my head and remind myself like, hey, I have to do this a certain way. So don't snap out of whatever it is that you're thinking about or whatever's bothering you, or just do your show. You made it. You can do good. So, I mean, but I don't like seeing a show that was good and it's someone else does it, and it's like it's done crappy. It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like
he makes that noise too.
Well, Dingo,
He really
I
does
mean,
make that noise when he sees something he does not. He's like, ugh.
groan. Does someone's routine pass the groan test? Yes or no? Mandingo, I was surprised because one of the first routines I've seen of yours that you passed on was your voodoo, that witch doctor that we talked about earlier. So, do you have any input as far as like passing on routines?
Wait. When did I pass that on?
you're talking about when Giovanni, or it was like a mixture. Yeah.
No. That wasn't. No, that wasn't. He didn't. I didn't give him. All right. Let me touch on the subject real quick. He had his own. If anything, it was a hybrid of a voodoo act that he created along with
Casey, a mixture of Casey.
Trey.
Yeah.
Which actually would be Juice. Because he choreographed that.
Yeah.
So that would be actually a hybrid of Juice. My voodoo act is completely still under my whole. That's all me still. I haven't done it in a while. If I do it again, which a few people have asked, like, hey, you should do that. I'm like, well, we'll see. I would have to make a few adjustments to it, considering what I know now. Because remember, I made that like 3 or 4 months into dancing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that was a long time ago. But yeah, I am the same way in how Juice doesn't like somebody doing an act the way that you don't think it should be. If I cut it and I made the choreography and I, you know what I'm saying, created this world and I executed it this way, if it's passed to you, that's how you execute it. If you bought it from me, then it's yours and I can't tell you nothing. And that's exactly why I won't sell it to you. Because I'm going to have trouble. I'll make you a whole new one for you and then sell that to you. But the one that I made for myself, no, I'm not selling that because I couldn't bear the thought of everything that I sat there and created myself being butchered.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not to say that you don't have to do something horribly to butcher it to me. You just have to not do it correctly. It's like if somebody's squatting and their form is terrible, their slight mistake will butcher their back, correct?
Yes.
So your slight tweaks or slight nonchalantness at certain parts, or your slight I know it's probably not a word, forgettance, your slight
forgetfulness.
yeah, I guess I should have used that. Your
Negligence.
forgetfulness of a certain part of something, or you not moving your hands here, or you not hitting the swords here at the right time, or you not picking up the staff at the right time. It seems right to the audience, but it ain't right to me. So no, like I don't give people my acts. I let people use them sometimes if there's just like we're switching nights to make fun of each other, or if we're just like, oh, you don't have an act tonight, an emergency. Okay, you know this act, right? All right, I'll help you in it so you can go on stage. You know what I'm saying? Like that is the farthest I'm pretty much gonna go. You know what I'm saying? As far as like, for example, that pirates act that I cut, I don't want
Mm-hmm.
anybody to use that. I don't even want to sell that. I might sell like the props and stuff off, but as far as like the actual audio for it and the choreography, nah, I would just make something new because I felt a large part of myself. I feel a large part of myself in that act every time I would do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it would really bother me to see somebody do that and not jump over the table when they're running through the crowd because that's what I would do. It's just that simple. You know what I'm saying?
The passion is real, gentlemen. The passion is real.
Oh, yeah.
Well, sweet guys. I really appreciate your insight on it. I think that's gonna call it a show there. Hopefully, the listeners got a lot out of it. I know I did. You guys are just phenomenal resources when it comes to all that comes into this industry, and really the reason why there's kind of a quote like a trademark brand on the type of entertainment that we offer. So this moves us into the worst and best events of the week. Obviously, like we've stated before on the show, we constantly get questions and asked like, what's the craziest thing that's happened to us, et cetera, which we all know is more or less routine because if you've been in the industry long enough, nothing's happened just once to you. But, hey, we like to let the crowd know what's going on and stuff like that. So I will kick us off with our worst event of the week. Mine's pretty self inflicted and pretty simple, but it still kind of sucks. And you guys will probably know what I'm saying. So I do a fireman routine. I have costumes for 4 guys. And guys also borrow them occasionally to do the fireman stripograms. So I like to take my costumes home. I rotate them. I try not to go home with like 8 bags full of laundry every week. So I kind of like every week I'll take a quarter of my stuff home or a routine and wash it and all that. So I ended up taking my fire stuff home. And I guess I forgot that I normally have those dry cleaned. So I just threw them in the laundry. Obviously, I throw them in the laundry independently because they have Velcro and I don't want to shred up everything else. Get it all done, dry it, everything's good to go. I take it back to work, and then I happen to put it back on to go do the fireman routine, and it turns out that they were not supposed to be machine washed, and it shrunk. And the worst thing about this is that the fireman costume, like mine, fit me perfectly. Like the other ones are a little baggy, so I had one. I think it was a medium versus larges that fit me absolutely perfectly to have the right look. Well, needless to say, now it fits me like an extra medium, like my little brother's fireman costume. So as soon as I put it on, like I turned the corner and the guys are just looking at me like, "What happened to your jacket?" I was like, "Yeah, see what happened was." So, needless to say, it's not the end of the world. But I mean, if I hit a dance move a little too hard or flex my chest, then the Velcro undoes and it pops open. So, yeah, that's stripper problems. What can I tell you?
Oh, yeah. That's it.
Juice, you got something for us?
Well, I guess the worst of the week. Mm, Uh, it wasn't really necessarily a super bad thing. It's just always like I'm always wanting to use some type of light or some type of lighting or a smoke machine or something like that. And well, actually, this was you know what? Take that back. Something that this was recent, but it wasn't actually. It didn't happen just this past week, but it was the last time I was there at Hard Bodies. I think I was doing my routine and I was supposed to be singing and the mic cut out completely. So I'm just singing like to nothing. Like you can't hear a voice or anything. And that kind of bothered me, but I was like, oh,
Gorge.
well, like, I guess the microphone died or something like that. I can't remember what the case was, but little things like that. I'm like, it's kind of embarrassing, but at the same time, it's kind of cool because it's like, they actually see like I'm actually really singing. That's the only cool part about it. But besides that,
I remember that.
Yeah, you do. You remember that? And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh damn, like I'm really why did it cut off? But um, I guess the best
Well,
is
hold on,
actually
brother. Hold on. We still
me.
gotta get through Mandingo.
Oh,
We
my
throw
bad,
our
my bad, my
negativities
bad.
out there and then bring it back up with a silver lining. You know what I'm
Okay, all
saying? I
right,
like
all
to
right,
keep it
all right, all
positive
right,
on this show.
all right.
All right, Dingo. What was your worst event? Let's get some sappy stories going your way, and then we'll go back to Juice's phenomenal best event since he wanted to steamroll it.
Um. Well, I guess realizing that I should have realized earlier that it was time for me to make a change. Um, every once in a while, you start to feel as if, wow, if I did this earlier, then I would be here now. I mean, there's a lot of things people can say that about, but specifically referring to dancing in and of itself, I should have been exploring a lot of other options a little bit earlier, not too much earlier. Don't get me wrong. I love everybody I've worked with. I love the people I work with now. It's just that there are certain times where you got to spread your wings and fly, and you should have took off a little bit earlier. So, um, it was very upsetting to to sit back and reflect on missed opportunities that I should have taken, or to be in the mind state a little bit earlier to understand that change happens, and when a change happens, you have to change with it, and you don't really need to wait on it too much. I think I waited just a tad bit too long. You know what I'm saying? So, as you know, and I've stated publicly and made it very clearly. Oh, I said that. I said, you know that I've stated on Facebook very clearly that I'm going to be visiting a few places, Dallas being one of the places soon. So, um,
Looking
I'd say
forward to
the
having you, brother.
thank you. I look forward to being there. So, I'm starting to understand that I should have made a lot more independent choices earlier, and it was just upsetting. It was an upsetting last couple of weeks for me, watching everything around me not be what I used to have it as. You know what I'm saying? And adjustments can always be made, but in my opinion, no, sorry, not opinion, it is a fact that it is not worth it for me to make these adjustments. It's worth it for me to go somewhere else and do what I feel like doing. So that would be, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, fair enough, man. At least you have that concrete resolve. You know what I'm saying? Like it's sometimes it's almost debatable on whether you missed an opportunity or you had to kind of experience the full level of the situation to get such a solid answer for yourself. You know what I mean? I always like to tell people that indecisiveness will kill you. Making the wrong
Sure.
decision will at least let you know you're traveling the wrong direction and you can make adjustments to your course after that.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, man. Oh crap! Now I cuss too.
Gosh.
And
See,
I
you
made it
got.
through the whole thing this time.
I was good. Juice let it slip, and now you got me in my feels and my deep thoughts. So I just lost my place too. All right.
Oh wait, I cussed. I don't remember cussing.
Yeah, you did when you were not too long ago, probably about 5 minutes ago. I caught it though. I put it in the show notes.
What do
So
you say?
I'm not gonna. He just said something. Don't worry about it. You can listen to the uncut version. All right,
Just
Juice.
text me.
Juice, go ahead. I mean, it's a cuss word, dude. It's nothing you haven't heard before. It wasn't like he hit me with some alien freaking language or something.
But I don't know how I missed it.
Anywho, maybe you were in your feels too. You were trying to come up with that solid worst event, since apparently Juice is gonna bring us back into the light now. Go ahead, Juice. What's your best event
Hey,
of the week?
wait. What about you? You're supposed to bring us into the light first, because
Oh,
you're best.
oh,
Yeah.
oh! I see how it is now. You were so excited to get it now, and now you have your doubts. All right, fine. I'll
I had to get you
steamroll this.
back.
Uh-huh. All right. So this is actually pretty epic, and it's one of those things that I don't know how many people caught it, but I sure did. So I was in the back of my locker getting ready to go up on stage. And as always, you kind of not dumb out. You kind of put the music in the background. You know, if you're so used to listening to it, you kind of put it on the background when you're not on main stage or on side stage. And I hear Caden come on the mic, and he's like, "Hey, if you don't mind, I'd really appreciate for you ladies that aren't tipping or have tipped the guys to move out of the way so the ladies behind you can get up to the stage, right? And you know, it's common knowledge, or not common knowledge. It happens more often than not on the weekends because people get excited.
Yeah.
They're up at the stage. They might tip the guy, and so we'll have main stage 3 or 4 rows deep. You know, so it's no big deal.
Yeah.
Like we extremely look down upon or frown upon women that are taking money off the stage. But, you know, if you're just standing up there, you tip the guy and you're still standing up there, like it's kind of 50-50. We'd like for you to move so someone else can get up to the stage, but we also understand that you did your part and you just may or may not know. So Caden is saying all this, and I noticed that he's talking a little bit longer than he normally does. You know, he normally says like something 2 or 3 seconds long and then goes back to playing the music. But this is going on like 10, 15 seconds and he's still talking. And I'm like, you know, and it's great because he all of a sudden like ends up being like, hey, we really need you to move out the way so other girls can go up there. He says it like twice. And I'm like, this feels a little odd. Like it broke up his normal cadence. And then next thing I know, when the music comes back on, like he raises the volume again, Ludacris's move, comes over. And it was just so perfect. Like, it was absolutely great. You heard the rest of the locker room laugh. I even think the guy on main stage laughed and some of the girls. It was just absolutely fantastic. And Caden was beyond himself. He ran to the back. He's like, you guys hear that? And I was like, yeah, dude, you did. It was great. Like, it was so perfect how he did it. I was like, it must have dawned on him. Like, he must have said it, like, on accident. And then it popped in his head. So he needed time to go find the song on the computer. But yeah, it was so good. And he just let that song play for like the remainder of the guy's set. It was absolutely awesome. So definitely the little things that kind of make the job worth it, you know?
Ain't nothing like good timing.
For real. True story, man. It can make or break an entire scenario. So, Juice, what's up, man?
Okay, well, mine is probably a little bit cornier than that. That's actually pretty funny. Well, I guess the best part of the week was actually coming home and getting to see all the guys again. They're like family, like second family. So that was best part of the week for me. Even though I'm sure everybody's like, oh, tired of doing these acts. I'm like all excited, like, hey, which act are you gonna do? Like, I'm excited to do some, dancing on stage because I was in Florida. So and a lot of them, they do a lot of solo routines, and they do any group thing is very, very, very minor. But I missed everybody, so I felt really happy to be back at home. So I guess that's best part of the week.
All right, I can see why you were excited to get that out, man. It's good to be around family, you know what I'm saying?
I'm corny as hell.
So corny. So corny. It works, man. Every listener now is like, oh, man, I want to go see him.
You said what?
All right. Dingo, go ahead, man. You got ultra funny. You got ultra corny. What you got in the middle?
See how you describe this. My, I guess, how do you say, the best thing that I not realized, but okay, so I'm going to visit Houston LeBaire this week. I'm pretty excited about that. You know, I get to go home and I get to see family. I get to hang out with friends and I get to do some work in the city of Houston for a slightly extended period of time, which a week and a few days. But I'm also bringing Suave with me this time. And I'm just excited that I get to work with him in a different place for more than just one event. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's exciting because like Suave for me is like a little brother. He reminds me of myself a lot when I was younger. So he's very like, I like having him with me because I not only like picking his brain, but I like watching him grow. And it's just exciting to see somebody who's worked as hard as it, because I don't know if you know, Suave don't go nowhere. He doesn't go anywhere. He usually sticks to working at the club, but now he's at the point where he's like, you know what? Let me explore. And I'm like, this is very exciting because a lot changed for me after I explored. And a lot is going to change for you now that you're going to explore. And it's just exciting to see somebody who stayed on the path of being the best entertainer he can be, improving every day, taking everything seriously. When you finally start to see that when you or other veterans like Juice right now had a hand in, like, you know what I'm saying, helping him develop, as far as helping him with his acts if he needed help on stage, or you know what I'm saying, giving him advice in certain areas and watching him apply it, and also always take into consider what you're saying because he has respect for you and understands how much you have been doing and how much you put into it. So I'm actually really excited to travel with him, and it's more bonding, of course. Every time you're outside the club with a guy that you work with, I mean, there's a lot of bonding going on. Just like he was saying earlier when we rehearse. So I'm just really excited to have Suave alongside for this trip and to be able to watch him, you know what I'm saying, go outside of his normal routine and start to really poke his head out of his shell and get out there. That actually excites me a lot. And I would say that's what I'm looking forward to about this upcoming week. And that news was probably the best news to me that I had heard all week.
That's
That I'm
phenomenal,
involved.
man. That's phenomenal. And I 100% understand where you're coming from, because watching people like Jason and now Richie and stuff like that, people that really kind of I somewhat guided or took under my wing initially, and then they become these great entertainers and great people in general, is such a rewarding thing. So I get where you're coming from, man. That's fantastic. I'm glad to hear it, bro.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome.
All right, man. So tell us where people can reach you at. Hit us with your social media and your where they can find your music as well.
All righty. Well, you can find me on Instagram. Me, Mandingo Jones, on Instagram, also known as Heaney Train. So on Instagram, you would type in HENETRAIN, Heaney Train, one word. My Snapchat is exactly the same. One word, no underscore, no forward slash, none of that. Just Heaney Train. As far as on Twitter, you can find me Heaney, but it's HEN and then the number three. So HEN, the number three, and then train for my Twitter account, which I do need to be more active on, but I'll be back on there soon. As far as Facebook, you can find me on Mandingo Jones, or from my music page, you can just type in HENE by itself, Heaney. And I post a lot about my music page on my Mandingo Jones page. So if you find my Mandingo Jones page, you'll find the music page. I'm also on SoundCloud for the meantime, soon to be on Spotify, Bandcamp, Apple Music, and iTunes. A whole title. But for the meantime, you can find me on SoundCloud and just type in Heaney hyphen train. So HENE, a hyphen, and then the word train, and then it'll come up on the music that I have on there right now.
I might need to actually hit you up, because now that I think about it, just as you were talking, I think I need to find one of your songs that kind of has a rhythmic flow to it that I could use for my next fire video.
Okay, no problem. And actually, if you need something original done, you can let me know, and I'll work on that for you as well.
Yeah. I think we got a couple of collaborations in the works, so we'll definitely make that happen. Speaking of which, real quick, before we get to James, you can catch. As of this recording, I am actually working on putting the theme song that you hear at the beginning and the end of this show, and when I'm on stage, on some kind of platform where I could up for purchase. It won't be that much, either $1 or $2, just to kind of recoup some of the money back and potentially maybe even create another theme song. So be on the lookout for that. All right. Thanks, Mandingo. Juice, how can people
Sure.
find you?
They can find me at on Instagram at James underscore Lamani. Is it underscore or hyphen? I don't know what it is. It's James underscore Lamani, LOMANI, and on Facebook at James, first name and last name, Lamani, LOMANI. And also, I don't really use Snapchat very often, but my Snapchat is JAY Juice 210. So it's all one word, all together, no accent or symbols in between. But yeah, find me on social media. sometimes I have my spurts of just weeks of where I'm like constantly on it, and there's other times where I'm like super low key. But yeah, that's my social media.
Sweet, man. Thanks. All right. You can catch me, Cesar the Crowd Pleaser, on Facebook. I am Cesar Collazo, COLLAZO. You can catch my Instagram or Twitter, Cesar LeBear7. Catch my reality show and this podcast on YouTube, Cesar LeBear, and then iTunes and SoundCloud, Cesar the Crowd Pleaser. Sweet. Appreciate you guys being on the show. Mandingo, thank you so much, man. It's always a pleasure having you on the show. We have great dynamics. So thanks.
No problem at all, man. Anytime.
Juice, you are a wealth of knowledge and inspiration, sir. You are phenomenal to watch. It really, really appreciate you taking the time to kind of let the world know how you feel and how you think when it comes to your show. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Sweet. Well, that's everything. So until next time, keep making it rain.
I am focused, I'm in my zone. You can binge watch like Game of Thrones. Reserve your judgments, don't throw no stones. Oohs and I scream as loud as you don't. Airplane mode on tablets and phones. Caesar's Crowd Pleasers is now on. Cesar, the Crowd Pleaser. If you need to pick me up, ladies, we gon' change your demeanor. Cesar, the Crowd Pleaser. We gon' do a little dance, we gon' make the naysayers believe us.